Hi, Joelle.
Morning. Just waiting on Carol.
You're recording. You might want to pause it.
Okay, if I can find that. Oh, I see.
Okay.
Good morning. This is Carole Hirsch of Care Patrol, and of course, Brian Sachs, our business partner at Senior Transition Helpers. And today we're going to learn about Carol's business. So, Carol, just tell us a little bit about what you do and how you help seniors.
So I am a board certified patient advocate, and um, and I would say that my goal is for seniors to get the care that they're entitled to and the care that they prefer. I also really started my business so that um, end of life discussions could happen before there was an emergency, and that also so that nobody would go to the hospital alone. So my business title is Prepare to Care Emergency Companions. And then as the business grew, it also became Roadmap to Aging. So yes, I'm in the business of being a conduit of communication between, the resources and the family members and the patient or the client. And also, I would say that I support a lot of communication, and yeah, so that's kind of the focus of the business, is really of fostering communication between all the channels.
I think that what you're doing is really very important. I have had the experience of loved ones that are not well and in hospitals, and I've thought to myself, God, look at some of these people here that have nobody with them and nobody to come visit and nobody to advocate, and it's just heartbreaking. So what you're doing is such a needed and wonderful thing to be doing for others. So
Yeah, it really is. Like I say, I make a very good living, and I have, no complaints about that. But I really live on the appreciation. There's just so much appreciation for what I do, and
sure.
for yeah. So I'm on mission, to create some peace of mind.
I love
It's
that.
it's interesting, Joelle and Carol, because your passion, Carol, comes through. And I've just gone through a situation where I lost my mother-in-law. She was in Boca Regional, had a very serious operation, and then her decision was she wanted to go to hospice by the sea. And she wasn't there 24 hours, unfortunately, before she passed away with her family around her. And I can't even imagine what that would have been like had the family not been with her every step of the way. So, I mean, what you do, aside from it being a profession, is just probably one of the kindest, worthiest good deeds that you could ever give anyone. So I just hats off. This is
Hey,
a
yeah,
role for me,
the
so
thing
I
is,
get it.
thank you very much. And I would, my grandma, who is somebody that I absolutely adored. I mean, she had colon cancer. She insisted that she wanted to go on hospice. And of course, you say to somebody, who you haven't had this conversation with when they're well, you say to them, you are saying that because you don't feel good. And of course, I'm going to help you feel good, and you're not going to want to say that. And then 2 years afterwards, she got scar tissue, and she was having a miserable experience. And I promised her after the colon surgery she wasn't going to have any more, torture, as we called it, going to doctors. And um and then she was just really uncomfortable, and she said, what did I do to deserve this? And I said, grandma, you don't deserve this. I just love you too much. I couldn't hear you at the time. Not that I would have changed anything that I did, because I had 2 more wonderful years with her, and I'm not sorry, but at the same time I felt like we could be having these conversations about end of life care, where you could say to your loved ones, I just want you to know I'm not interested in being alive, being highly compromised, where I have to lie in bed and have somebody clean me. Like, I'm not interested in that. So if there's an opportunity, I'm going to take it. When you have that before you're in a crisis, you might be able to hear that, or I may be able to help family members make those difficult decisions. But when they're already sick, you're always, especially somebody that you love, you're going to say, you're saying that because you don't feel good, and you're going to feel good after we do this. So yeah, they're heart-wrenching decisions, but I love really helping people have a natural passing, or, to go through a situation and not be by themselves. So
That's
Sure.
so critical.
Yeah, it also really helps with the family members because they're going through it as well. And sometimes they're not really in the right state of mind to be able to be making these decisions. So if it was done ahead of time, it really takes a lot of that anxiety and pressure off, because then you're doing what your loved one wanted instead
yes.
of fighting maybe over what you think the right thing is to do.
Yeah. And so, I'm going to kind of jump ahead because we're right in that framework of this conversation. But you asked me for like 2 success stories.
Sure.
And I met a woman. She had dropped her pills in the bathroom, and you could see that she wasn't in a good state. So I helped her find her pills, and then she said, "Can you help me get over to my driver dropped me off at the wrong office. I need to get to the other office on Clinton Moore. Can you drive me?" And I drove her, and then as soon as she got to the steps, a big brute fell down and banged her on her head, and then she fell backwards. And this became like a long informal relationship with this woman. She got through that. Then she fell and broke her hip, and then we helped her get through that. And then the third time around, she said to her daughter, "I'm ready for hospice care. I've had it," and I was able to say to the daughter, most people don't get through hip surgery and then have 3 good years after that. Your mom already showed her muscle. She already proved herself. She's entitled to have a comfortable natural death. And I can't tell you how comforting that was for the daughter to hear that, and to be like, "Oh yeah, I don't have to push her. She's okay. She already passed the test. She got through something really hard, and lived her life, and it's okay."
Yeah, it's
So
interesting. Sometimes people need that third party endorsement to know that what they know is right is okay to do. It's like giving
yeah,
somebody permission.
yeah, because nobody wants to say goodbye to somebody that they love.
Yeah,
Nobody.
of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to give
So
us another success story or a client that you
well,
want
the
to
other
tell us
success
about?
story that I thought about is I had a client who I met when they were 94. And again, she was independent her whole entire life. She was still driving at 94. 95, she had a car accident, and that was the end of that. But she made it to 100. She made it living in her house. And she was a referee. She ran up and down basketball courts. She played tennis. So she was very, very, very active, and very, very strong-willed mind. And she was determined that she was going to stay in her home. That was her deal. And so she went into heart failure. And we could have pushed it. Those heart failure is very tricky. It's like you give them just right amount of diuretic so that they can breathe, and then when they go into kidney failure, you give them some other stuff, and they kind of just go in and out of the hospital. They can go in and out of the hospital even a couple of years with these heart conditions. But each time you go to the hospital, you're more compromised, and then you're lying in bed, and it takes days before you're back on your feet. And so she went into she went into heart failure, congestive heart failure. And she went back to the hospital the second time only because I had hired a nurse practitioner that wasn't as responsive as I thought. And so I didn't know what to do. She was impacted. So we sent her back to the hospital. But from there, she went on hospice care, and she was grateful. She was absolutely grateful that she didn't have to go through this tune up at the hospital and get weaker and weaker and weaker and have more and more care. And she passed on her own volition, I guess would be the right word. Anyway.
Carol, I wish I had known you sooner. because what you described is exactly what my mother went through in her 90s. She went from congestive heart failure to kidney failure, from kidney failure pumped up back to congestive heart failure for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, hideous is probably the best word I could describe. It
Yeah.
was painful for her, painful for us. And you're right. I mean, you just gave me a very clear flashback for going in and out literally every other month, depending
Yeah.
on what the issue is. The heart failure cure caused kidney failure. The kidney failure cure caused congestive heart failure.
Right.
And it's like a ping pong ball. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the renal failure got her anyway. And that was, that was that. But, and she was on hospice for 10 days, not able
Yeah.
to speak. And it's just, I think what you're saying and what you're providing is so needed, so important. And honestly, I'm honored to have you as a guest.
Thank you very much. Thank
It's
you.
very evident that you are very well versed in a lot of areas, medical and emotional, that really people need to, as an outside person, to help everybody see the whole picture and what each piece means and where it's going to lead and what maybe the best course of action is based on what the wishes are of the person you serve. And
Yeah.
that's really just a beautiful thing. I thought that I had read on your website that you also provide respite care for caregivers. Is that accurate?
So I don't actually provide, I am a conduit of communication, as I say. So I have resources that I connect people to. So what I do have is, I work with a lot of patients with dementia, and there's many patients with dementia who are physically okay. And so their desire to have an aide who can help them with activities of daily living doesn't match for them. So what they do need is somebody to help them engage, or to get to appointments on time, or to kind of be that extra person who feels more like a friend or a companion. And I'm not the only agency that does this, but I have a few people that I work with. And a lot of times, I mean, these are my people that help get people into assisted livings when they need to help. And so, then we know that things are going to progress. And so by learning the relationship of extra added support, it makes it easier to bring in higher levels of care when they're necessary. And it's helpful for me because I have that relationship established. So I'm kind of in there when, as a business, I'm kind of in there when they're there, and I can get that more care. And, so that's a beautiful part of my business. So yeah, so I want to kind of circle back, which is that you asked me how did I get started? And I moved to Florida in 94, and I was living in California, and I was struggling financially, and I called my grandma up and I said, Grandma, I said, I need some help. Can I stay with you for 3 or 4 months until I get my feet on the ground? She's like, how fast can you get here? That was
Oh,
literally what she said. And so when I got here to Golden Lakes Village, I had my grandma, I had 2 great uncles, and then my mom was diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's. I think she probably had Lewy body, but they called it Alzheimer's. But whatever it was, that is how I learned what I learned. At some point in time, Jewish Family Children's Services offered like a 6-week program where you take your business ideas and turn it into a business. And the 2 things, as we talked about, was wanting people to have end of life care discussions before somebody was sick. And so that nobody had to go to the hospital alone, because, I would experience people retching and there'd be nobody with them. And
yeah,
just,
it's awful.
yeah. And so I went through this 16-week program, and I developed my business model. And the executive director of the program said to me, you're not a nurse. you're not a social worker, you're not a psychologist, you're not, you're not anything, you don't have a license in anything. And so the newest field for you to become involved with is patient advocacy. It's becoming a professional organization and professional field. And so that's what I did. I became a board certified patient advocate so that I have something that says I'm entitled to help you, And but I started my business in 2012. And so I started it to do those two things. But what I found was that my experience in aging was very beneficial at other times. And so I started my other half of the business called Roadmap for Aging. So I do problem solving. I help people with long-term care policies. I help, with all kinds of new, making sure that that you stay on the good road and that you don't have too many pitfalls that keep you off the road. And yeah, so that's how I got started.
I love that.
You
Yeah.
have the firsthand experience. I mean,
Right.
that would be better than any designation because you've lived it.
I lived it. Yes. Yes, I have.
I find a lot of people in the senior care industry, they're in it with a heart because they've had an experience and they
Yeah,
are looking to solve that problem.
Yeah, that's how I relate to you guys, because I know that you're in it because you went through these personal experiences and you're like, there's got to be something better than this,
Right.
and you don't want somebody to have an experience. You want people to learn from what you already learned from. I mean, why should they have to learn the hard way?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. You don't want people to struggle. How do you find your clients, or how do the clients find you?
So I started, when my grandma died, I really had like selling radio advertising, and I felt like, yeah, this isn't meaningful. I need to do something meaningful. She was really like a big anchor for me. And so I went back to school and I got a degree in emergency planning, and I found that actually wasn't what was my calling either, because I'm a positive thinker. I don't like to think about what's going to go wrong. I like, I am a planner and I'm very good at worrying, but it feeded that negative side of me. So I ended up getting a job after I got my degree, my master's, with a company that provides physical rehab, occupational rehab, and speech rehab in the home through Medicare Part B, which is a unique service because usually those services are done by Part A benefits through home care, and Part B has different kind of billing. So it was a really beautiful experience. And so I started marketing to doctors, and doctors became knew who I was, knew that I was helpful, knew that I cared about seniors, knew that I was on mission. And so when I opened up my business, I changed my relationship with the companies that I was working with, and I started marketing to the doctors that knew me. And so I work with a lot of neurologists and some primary care doctors. And it doesn't, I have a team, but it's not like, I offer a service that is on demand, and you can't control that. So I don't want to ever be in a situation where I can't do what I say that I'm going to do. So the growth process has been strictly through referrals, strictly through networking and different experiences, because I just wanted to grow organically so that I can always keep my word.
That's wonderful. And if somebody needs you, they want to reach out to you, how do they get in touch with you?
So the best thing to do is to call me at my business phone number, which is 561-758-5630. And then you can always find me on the web at preparetocare.com.
Okay.
And I have LinkedIn, but I'm not active in it. I'm just, it would be silly for you to try and find me in LinkedIn or on Facebook or whatever, because they're not active stuff.
It's not your
Yeah,
bag.
just give me a call.
Yeah. And I apologize. I named you the wrong business in the beginning, so I apologize. Say the name of your business again so everybody
It's
hears.
Prepare to Care Emergency Companions.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to tell Anybody?
Just look. So I just want to say one thing that I like to leave people with, which is that's really important to have positive communication. And I don't know if people really understand that, but I'll give you a really classic example that everybody can think about. You know, it's very common for children to say to their parents, you know, it's very tough to raise parents. It's, don't worry. You know, and you think that you're saying something really nice, but it's actually, you could say to them, I want you to feel safe. And they would feel that differently. And so we always want to be trying to communicate positively. You know, we always want to say what we prefer rather than what we don't prefer. And if we can just really keep that in mind, it can make a difference between that dynamic of loved ones, because when people feel vulnerable, they control whatever they can control, and that can be very challenging for the people that want to help them.
Carole, I love that. And it brought something to mind for me. As I said, I have people that have serious illnesses in our family right now. And one of them said, they really hate it when people say, you're going to be okay. And, people just don't know what else to say.
Right.
So it just made me think that you probably have a whole list of what you say and what is a better thing to say. And maybe if you would be willing, that could be, I don't know if you have a document with that or somewhere that you have that information, or that maybe you want to do another interview with us where we can go over what you think you should say and what we often say and what we should say. That's, going to help our loved ones better.
I would love to do that. I don't have that formally down, but I would, that working on that would be wonderful for me, actually,
Oh, good. I think a lot of people could benefit from that, because we just don't know what to say, and we think we're saying the right thing.
And, just a super simple thing to keep in mind is that you always want to be telling people the truth. And so, yes, the thing that this could be long-winded, and I don't know if we have time. So I'm just going to say that it's very important to tell the people that you love them. And really, all somebody needs to say is, I just want you to know how important you are to me and that I want you to be well. That's all I want. That's all you need to say, really.
I mean, honestly, Carole, when you and I met, I teared up and you teared up, and you're making me tear up again. You're amazing. You're an incredible person, and it really, really shines through anytime anybody's around you or just here on the screen. It really shines through your caring and your love and your compassion. And it's just, I mean, you have a wonderful life. I want to thank you so much for being
You're
here.
very, very welcome. Very, very welcome. Thank you very much too.
Sure.
I really, like I said, I live on appreciation. I'm going to feel great all day today. So thank you.
I'm so glad to hear
Give
that.
your number one more time.
561-758-5630.
Tthank you.
Thank you,
You're
Carole. Have a
welcome.
great day.
You too. Thanks again for the opportunity. Very
Sure.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You're going to